Okay, so welcome to my hobby. This is one of the pages from my witchy book that I got in during COVID. And I had a couple of epiphanies and started writing down my latest inside the book, believing that this iteration is as close as possible to the truth. And in it, I had anima and ego and id and shadow and persona listed on this cardinal chart here. And as you can see over here, it's reversed. But honestly, as an aside, I reverse this in the book. Typically, I have the persona up top. I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But in the book, I was like, you know what? Just to switch it up, I'm going to put 1 here and go all the way to 8 here. So that's just a personal thing I thought might work. That left and right, yes, but I'm pretty sure, like, a while ago, I had it so that heaven was here and earth was here and gravity and all that stuff. So I figured, well, everything personal seems to be over here and the altruistic stuff seems to be over here. I'm going to say that this represents when I'm looking at it. This is towards me, this is towards others, right? I was like, okay, alright. So, that makes sense. To me, at least. But it was just a arbitrary choice. I was like, yeah, let's see if it works. So here we go. This is it. And I was like, then I put in me, myself, and I. And I'm like, alright. And then I got you and their pronouns, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. And Jung's attitude and function stuff slots here and here. But, of course, those are just the words, and I'm interested in the concept behind those words. And he doesn't really go into why he called it attitude and why he called them functions, right? He just called them that, arbitrarily, I believe. But there was something there, like, when we tap into something when we use words. And intuitively, we might fall upon the right word for the situation, even though it means more than we think it means. So, right? And the more trivial it is, and the more technical it is, and the more abstract it is, the closer it seems to be towards the truth, universally, that people just unconsciously tap into. Anyways, so think is here, which is kind of weird because thought is over here. I didn't put it down here on the paper. Think is here, feel is here, sensation is here, perception is here, and intuition is here. So the functions are kind of all over the place. Alright? But it may be that thought and feel is attitude is thought and function is feel. Perhaps, and has nothing to do with the sensation part of it and the intuition. Anyways, so here we are. We've got this, and I was like, okay, well, I'm hoping by reading Jung that I'll be able to figure out a word. Virtue wasn't here yet, or intuition. Sorry, introversion. And up here, extroversion wasn't there yet. So here I am looking at this stuff and going, I really need to get some technical words in here. So I go look up Jung's talking about psyche and stuff like that. And I realize very quickly that I'm not going to get a mythical name for here. I am not going to get a mythical name for here. So I was like, okay, what do I have? I've got virtue. In the only thing I'm taking from Machiavellian literature is his concept of virtue, which must have been a very big concept in Rome and Italy, way back in the Renaissance period. Virtue and fortuna must have been very, very important back then. And as a concept beyond just good, it was an interesting concept. Anyways, so at least the way Machiavelli puts it, and he might be speaking to what was commonly accepted back then, or he could have been talking about something else. But most of his shite is garbage, and God, very selfish. Anyways, so here we go. Looking at this picture here, and I'm thinking, okay, well, isn't it interesting that they have other people and the persona? You'd be like, well, Colin, but when you face other people, that's the persona. Well, yeah. Yes, but why are other people excluded from the circle? There's collective unconscious. Why is it facing towards you? Like, obviously this is a diagram that has outer people away, as mine did too. But the thing is, this is the persona facing others, and mine is close to it. But turning this around, like say if I flipped it, I'll just flip the book here and look at it and get a good picture of what I'm talking about here. See if I can read upside down. So when I flip it, immediately it hits me that, yeah, there's a reason I had it this way in the book, is because persona might be facing others, but me and you, the pronouns, are, yeah, let's have a rethink here. So persona is the image that you show other people, but we have no insight as to the efficacy of that persona. When we look at the persona, it's our picture, our mask that we made, that we look at to show the public. But the public, many different people of many different cultures see that mask differently than we. So this persona is a representation that we believe is facing the world, but it's actually facing us, right? Because our representation is not what we present to the universe, right? Even though we think it's hiding our true selves, the persona sometimes speaks more about ourselves than we realize, right? So other people probably see the anima peeking through, or they might not, right? This tries to encapsulate other people as well, whereas this just externalizes it, which is ridiculous, because this collective unconscious completely, the anima completely contradicts what this image is talking about. And I'm wondering, this can't be Jung. I don't think Jung's ever written this down. I don't think this is a Jung thing. I think this is this guy's thing, and he goes, well, look what I've interpreted it, and he tries to pass it off. There's no credit here. Just pass it off as Jungian. I'm fairly freaking sure that this is not a product of Jung himself, because, you know, he spoke German. This might be a representation, transliteration of what his German scribbles did, but I'm fairly sure Jung never stooped to this kind of thing. So when people do this, it's cute when I have an understanding a little more grounded in meaning than these people. and I realized that my little mantra here is my little what did Jung call them? Matrix? Anyways, my little thing is supposed to encompass everything, and that includes other people. And over here is where other people come in. So it's interesting that this is right. And if I flipped it, you would be here and me would be up here, and wouldn't make any sense. The persona would be up there. But at the same time, to me, splitting away is distinctive even before I flipped it here. When I was looking at, you know, when it was flipped and I had persona up here and anima down here, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I realized that this was a splitting away, a movement, when it was reversed. So it was a splitting away of, and everything about it seemed to be, this is you as an individual, splitting away from the cosmos, your individuation. And this was your assimilation with the universe. And to me, splitting away was a very personal thing, it seemed to me. And to put it close to my heart, my viewer, myself, I realized that flipping it like this might be counterintuitive versus, you know, the English way of going down a page from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to upwards in the Chinese way. And I don't do right to left. Well, it kind of doesn't matter really, you know, but I do write English right to left, right? That's the way it is. But to this thing, it doesn't matter which direction you write it in. It's always going to be right or left. There's no, this is always going to be left, and this is always going to be right. And in fact, right and left match up entirely. Yeah. And so does, since we're on the topic of anima and animus, which I believe is a misnomer, the anima is up here. And that's apparently feminine, but here is masculine and man, and this is feminine woman over here, right? Literally. And right and left. And why is this an anima when this is right and left? Is it reversed? You know? So it's, since I don't have a word here for it, I can't, right? But extroversion I put in because that's amazingly where extroversion is, right here. And then introversion is right here, opposite, amazingly. So the introverted part of ourselves, the psyche, and I'm butchering Jung's terminology. He spoke in German, so he would use Geist and seal, soul, and spirit for this kind of thing. But psyche, I believe, is the collection of personas, masks you have, that you hold to yourself, believing this is what you're presenting to others. When, in fact, yes, sometimes it is. A lot of times it is. Maybe sometimes it's not. And maybe a lot of times it's not. But it's something you believe is representing you. Whereas when you present yourself to others, they might have an entirely different vision of who you are. Either what you present to them, what you represent to them, and what you present to them. So yeah, and that extroversion stuff, but when you're extroverted, you present yourself, you are in the present, you are present with others You want to be present with others. It's not so much a persona thing, because personas are meant to hide yourself. It's a very introverted kind of way of being, right? So, you know, I mean, the lust and the id, and it's there for everybody. And we also have ego to balance that out, right? Like ego and id and stuff to balance that out. We've got the shadow and the archetype. To me, the ego controls the id, or it's supposed to, right? And the archetype, though I haven't found a good word for it yet, is supposed to control the shadow. And it'd be cool if love represented that more than archetype, right? But what can the unconscious... I'm assuming this represents the unconscious. You know, when I speak of I mean I as in everything about me, including Noam Chomsky's idea that every action of ours comes from the unconscious first to go through our conscious in order for us to act. People take that as deterministic. A lot of people take that as deterministic, that there's no free will, but that's just nonsense. Part of I, and myself includes the unconscious, the subconscious, that may fully never be known. And just because I don't have that thought and never will, doesn't mean I don't have that thought, right? So all this stuff is fascinating to me. But something rubbed me wrong about this, and I was thinking about it, and it was like, wait a minute, like showing other people your persona, I think it's speaking more about this guy than, you know, I mean, just because you think persona is what you present to the universe is not what other people usually see. And like, you might think you're cool, but yeah, right? It's the whole dad thing, right? Yeah. Midlife crisis kind of thing, I guess. But anyways, that was my thought. I want to get it down on paper, and I'm pretty sure this is this guy's thing. I'm actually going to try to contact him going, what's that image you have for understanding meaning and archetypes? Is that what you put down on paper, or is that a transliteration of something in German that that either he presented of others' subjective stuff, the dream stuff, or this is literally something of Jung's that he wrote himself, kind of thing. You know, and then he just transliterated. I'm sure Jung would never write this in English, right? Or never wrote it.